Recording live in the Lucky Number 7 Virtual Lounge, this is Dine, Drink Vegas, the podcast by and for everybody stuck at home, wishing they were in the land of neon lights and bad decisions. And you have found episode 35. Will membership still have its privileges? Where we explore MGM's new rewards program. We're also going to dive into all the Vegas news that we thought was interesting. And of course, we're going to talk about our drink of the day. But before we could do any of those things, we have to bring in the founder of Dine, Drink Travel and Dine, Drink Vegas himself, the former high roller of the High Plains, the leader in the luxury lounge, the king of comps, the Alabama slammer, the man who is always waiting on that limo to carry him away to a luxury resort. Of course, I mean Bill. Good evening, Bill.
Good evening, John. How are you?
I am doing very well and getting better by the sip because it has been a very long Monday as we record. And I've been around a lot of very loud and obnoxious people. And it is nice to be with a friend talking about Vegas and having a cocktail. Say, Bill, what are we drinking tonight?
So we are drinking a Negroni, although you and I took two different approaches to it. And I think our listeners are probably better served by hearing about your approach first, since I did a pre-mix and you actually mixed your own. So what's in your Negroni, John?
Okay, so let me give you the standard recipe first, and then we can get into what you and I both did. So a standard Negroni, this, by the way, listeners, this is one of the classic cocktails. This is one of those drinks that everybody should know how to make, and it's easy. Although I'm going to confess, it has not always been my favorite cocktail, and I'll get into that in a minute. But traditionally, a Negroni is dead easy. It's a 1-1-1 cocktail. 3 ingredients, equal measure. Could be an ounce and a half, 2 ounces. Excuse me. Whatever you pour of one, match it on the rest. So traditionally, it would be 1 ounce of gin, 1 ounce of Campari, and 1 ounce of sweet vermouth. You stir that until it gets good and chilled, and then you serve it in a rocks glass with a large cube and then garnish with an orange peel. Now, Bill, before we talk about our Negronis, have you had a Negroni before? I assume a cultured man like you has had a few.
I have had some. It's something I've always enjoyed. It's just that anytime I'm in a place that actually knows how to make one, there's almost always something I would rather have. So it's not a drink I've had frequently.
So I'm going to be honest. I have kind of a love-hate relationship with the traditional Negroni. And I think, I know, because I'll get into my variation. The issue for me is the Campari. So technically, Campari is not an Amaro, but it's very, very, very similar to Amaro, meaning it is a very bitter yet sweet Italian liqueur. And the combination of the Campari and the gin, to me, I like bitter things. You have seen me drink an obscene amount of Angostura bitters.
Obscene, yes.
Yeah. But there's something about the bitterness that goes into a Negroni with Campari that it's a little bit off. Well, as it turned out tonight, when I walked up to the neighborhood liquor store and they were out of Campari. So I used the last of my Amaro de Angostura. So mine is gin. I went with Tanqueray. And I used 1.5 ounces of the Amaro de Angostura. And then the only sweet vermouth I had available to me tonight was Martini and Rossi. Not the best sweet vermouth, but I got to tell you, altogether they're working well. And so I broke the formula to switch out from Campari to Amaro de Angostura. But I got to say, I like this drink better than the real thing. Bill, how about you?
So Alabama is good at any number of things, and I am proud to live here. Now, one of the things that we're not good at is selection in our liquor stores, and I couldn't find Campari, but one of the things I could find is a New York Cocktail Company pre-mixed Negroni, and New York Cocktail Company is as good as a pre-mixed cocktail is going to get, right? And I've had a couple of their other things. Always works out fine. I'm going to read the ingredient list, but it just says made with gin, vermouth, liqueur, and bitters. So, it's all the list there, although now that I look at it, it doesn't explicitly say Campari, right? It just says liqueur in that place.
Yeah.
I like it. It is a good drink. It tastes like the other Negronis that I've had. It's sweeter than what I normally prefer. And I'm guessing that's coming from the sweet vermouth, right?
Yeah.
It's a
Could
sweeter
be.
drink than I normally prefer. When I drink at this, what I think about is my wife, who is not a gin drinker at all. But if she was ever going to drink gin, I think this would be the drink that would make her do it.
Yeah. No,
Yeah.
I gotta wonder about that. And my wife happens to be in the room. She's not going to be on microphone, but hey, dear, have a sip of that. We're conducting a science experiment because my wife doesn't do gin either.
Also, she's married to you, and she probably needs a drink.
That's delicious.
Okay, she approves. So
All right.
apparently that's the thing is just sub out the Campari if you find the regular Negroni too bitter. If you like it the way it comes, go for it. And I don't hate it the way it comes. It's just not my favorite. But play around with other Amaros and see what you get. The Angostura, Amaro de Angostura, for anybody that knows how much I love Angostura bitters, no surprise, I'm in love with this drink.
Can I ask one last question about this cocktail before we move on, John?
Of course.
So you were correct. It's one of the classic cocktails, and of course you see it in every well-done cocktail bar, but you don't see it in every bar all the time. So why is this drink slightly less common than, say, an old-fashioned or a martini or any of those other things? Why is this one of those classic cocktails that's not huge on the pop culture scene?
I think because you've got to be this is not going to be something that a run of the mill, you live in a town with 300,000 people or less, and your nicer steakhouse will always have this in stock. You've got to be in a place that's after craft cocktails because once you start stocking Campari or various types of Amaro or other cocktails like the Last Word that require chartreuse, when you get into those specialty ingredients, if you don't have a customer base that wants to drink those high-end and necessarily expensive cocktails on a regular basis, your good vermouth, your Campari, your Amaro, your chartreuse, these are not 40% alcohol by volume. These liqueurs and fortified wines, they will oxidize and go bad. And if your bar can't sell enough Negronis to justify the cost of keeping the ingredients around, that thing's coming off your menu pretty quick.
Okay, that actually makes good sense. Well, John, what is our feature story for today?
So MGM is rolling out a new rewards program. And to give our listeners a little bit of background, you've been going to Vegas for way longer than I have. I had my first trip to Vegas with you and Mike, what about 2015, 2016?
Yeah, that
So
sounds
roughly
correct. Yeah.
roughly a decade. I've been doing Vegas for roughly a decade. And the majority of my trips have been at MGM properties because at the time when we all started going, you had not yet started this channel. We hadn't done, like, the podcast came later. YouTube, you were dabbling with cruise content, but you really hadn't started doing much with Vegas. And you were locked into the MGM ecosystem for the rewards program. And knowing that I was probably going to be traveling either with my wife or with my friends or with my wife and my friends and their wives, I just went ahead and bit the bullet and got the MGM MasterCard. And most of my trips have been to MGM properties too. Now we've been branching out as the YouTube channel and the podcast have picked up steam. And as the last revision of the MGM rewards kind of left us cold. But I'm guessing probably every third trip finds us at an MGM location. Is that fair to say?
I think it's absolutely fair. The MGM Rewards program isn't as good for me as it was before the last set of changes, whenever that was, roughly 5 years ago. And the principal reason that it's not as good for me is that they used to reward spending more heavily than they do now. You used to get 25 tier credits per dollar, whereas now I think you get like 4. And I'm more valuable for spend than I am on casino losses.
Yeah.
But that said, it's still more generous. It's not as generous as they once were, but it's still one of the more generous programs out there in terms of what they give you. And as I'm reading this press release, they're not going to be any more generous with what status you earn, but at any given status, it looks to me like the rewards are actually better with this new press release they just came out with.
Yeah, and I think they also make the first tier jump a little bit less expensive. Like it's now going to be 20,000 points to get to Pearl, which is the second tier, instead of 25,000. Now, if you have the MGM credit card, and more on that here in a little bit, you're automatically Pearl. So I've maintained my card for that reason. I don't get a lot of other perks. I've made gold once, but that was before they revised the point policy. But yeah, I mean, it looks like all of the tiers are going to get a little bit better. And if you get to gold status now, bye bye resort fees. And you and I have talked about that it's a bad idea generally to chase status. You don't get enough benefit out of it. Definitely don't gamble so you can get status. That's a losing proposition. If you gamble because you like gambling and you can afford it and you happen to get status, cool, take that perk and run from it. But don't gamble more than you're comfortable with or than you enjoy simply to get a higher tier. That
No,
said,
I'm sorry, go ahead. Yeah.
no. That said, I'm going to be hacking through these rules to see if I can't get myself to gold. Because waiving resort fees, you have my attention.
You absolutely do. Well, and you're 100% correct. You should never chase status. But what you should do religiously is once you've made the decision to spend money anyway, whether it's in a casino or whether it's in a restaurant or whatever, you might as well track that spending so that you can get the rewards that come with it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Like
Absolutely.
that's probably the biggest mistake I see people making in Vegas is when they've already decided to make a purchase or, go gambling and then they don't track the spending. I get it. There is a loss of privacy data, but the casinos already know so much about you anyway. I'm going to get my coupons.
Yeah, I agree. And I do miss the old days when you got more bang for your buck. I think El Cortez is kind of fun. Like at a certain threshold, you get an ice cream sandwich. Weird, but let me put it this way. I think that is really weird, but never once have I gone to that kiosk and seen that I have an ice cream sandwich that I didn't get my ice cream. I'm taking it. It's weird, but yeah, give it to
But
me.
it's a thing. So what does the press release actually say, John? Like, what is it that MGM Rewards is doing differently starting this spring?
So one of the big things, like we said, is to kind of one, and you'll talk more about Marriott in a minute, but they're beefing up their relationship with Marriott and with another travel vendor that I'm going to let you talk about because that's definitely your field of expertise. But they also they talk about how members can now earn what they're calling milestone rewards between tier status, which means like, let's say if you've reached Pearl, you got over 25,000, but you're not going to get to 75,000 to get to gold. If you get over 50,000 tier credits, so you're 25,000 short of gold, they'll let you roll over 7,500 credits into the following year, which is going to make it easier to maintain Pearl and start the chase for gold all over again. Same thing happens at 125,000 tier credits if you're trying to get up to, I guess you're chasing platinum or noir at that point. I guess you'd be chasing platinum. They'll let you roll over 17,500. So for those people who come up short of leveling up, they used to reset you down to zero. Now, if you made a good faith effort and you came up short, they at least give you some, hey, you tried points, right? So it's your participation trophy. They also have $100 of dining credit on gold tier, and you've got chances for upgrades, or you can apply it at the spa or wherever entertainment venues. At platinum, $200 for the same thing, and up to $600 of air travel to fly Las Vegas, Beau Rivage, or Borgata. So if I were going to try to make it down to the redneck strip down there in Biloxi, this would be a perk for that. And for those who can afford to gamble enough to get to Noir, you don't need any of these rewards, but let's just run them through. You're going to get a $500 celebration credit and up to $1,200 in airfare credits. So those are the really big ones that they line out in the program.
Yeah, no, that's That is distinctly better than the program used to be. Like, those are some more generous rewards, particularly since they don't require more. In some cases, it's easier to earn the tiers. So I still wish it was like the old program that rewarded my spending more heavily. But cool, this is a better deal than it was, and it's not
Yeah.
close.
Well, talk to us about their partners. So we've mentioned Marriott, and then there's another one. So why don't you walk us through the partnership benefits?
So there are two principal partnership benefits, and one of them is a cruise reward with either Royal Caribbean or Celebrity, which is part of the Royal Caribbean family. Um, and this is something which used to exist and has come back and been enhanced. But up until now, if you were a gold, and you've got to be at least a gold tier elite with MGM rewards. But previously, you didn't get any cruise. And starting last week, starting on March the 25th, the MGM will offer you an ocean view stateroom for up to 5 nights on a Royal Caribbean cruise ship, or an up to $750 trade-in value. Now, here's what's intriguing about that. I actually qualified for a free cruise when I was platinum under the old rewards program 5 or 6 years ago. But it was like a 3-day cruise, and it had to be like one of two cruises that was sailing from darker Peru. Like it was
Yeah.
hard to cash in. I think the fact that there is a trade-in value means you could get, some sort of actual benefit if you didn't like what they were offering you. And then if you're platinum, instead of 5 nights in an ocean view, you can get 7 nights in a balcony or a $1,500 trade-in. And if you're noir, which is invitation only, you've got a $3,000 trade-in value. So that cruise benefit is pretty generous. Now,
Yeah.
based on the experience I had 5 or 6 years ago, I would still love to hear from one of our listeners about how well it actually works out. But yeah, that's a good deal. I think for
Yeah.
me,
Yeah.
do you want to stop and camp out here for a
No,
second?
no,
Or
no.
go ahead
No,
and
no,
talk
no.
about Marriott.
Yeah, I was about to say my only thing is that I do wonder. It sounds like the cash credits are probably going to be easier to get. I'm willing to bet there's strings on the cabins, but I could be wrong. But I'm a cynic at heart.
What I'm hoping is that one of our listeners will leave a comment, or listeners, if you're hearing this, you can find us on social media at Dine Drink Travel. You can find John at Dine Drink John on X. Also, I think it's Dine Drink John on Blue Sky for him too. But reach out, and I'm Dine Drink Travel, pretty much all the platforms. Reach out to us and let us know how this actually worked in the free world, because I'm pretty curious.
Yeah, it sounds like it might be a really good deal. You always got to wonder about the catches. So
And
how about
there's
the hotel partnership?
So, one of the reasons that it took me a while to get into Vegas is I like to concentrate my spending in non-Vegas locations in a limited number of partners for hotels and airlines, because that lets me accumulate my rewards. That's always been hard to do in Vegas. However, MGM Rewards is now a partner with Marriott in a way that is pretty fantastic. So my buddy Ryan, right? Like, y'all have met,
Oh yeah,
haven't you?
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I like
So
Ryan.
Ryan travels with Marriott for, like, that's his preferred vendor for his workplace. Marriott Bonvoy is now a partner with MGM Rewards, which means he can use some of his work points to go to Vegas. So for guys like him, that's huge. I actually played around with this when I was trying to plan our Labor Day trip, and there's still some problems, right? Like, when I logged in to plan the Labor Day trip, I was getting cheaper rates going through the MGM Rewards site than I was going through the Marriott site for the same room. And if you wanted to do stuff like add lounge access, it was better to go through the MGM Rewards site. If you wanted to use your Marriott discount, it was still better to go through the Marriott site. So there are some rough patches that I hope they will eventually work out. But yeah, you can book on either site for hotels in Vegas. And I think this is a huge value add for business travelers going to Vegas. And I think that's one of the smartest things MGM has done, because it costs them almost nothing in terms of a partnership, but more people who have active travel portfolios, I think, are going to be likely to stay there. Do you think does this make any difference to you at all, John?
Yeah, I honestly think it does. So I'll be looking at, so in my non-Vegas stays, I tend to book whatever's handy to my venue, and I tend to not express a lot of brand loyalty because I don't always travel enough every year to make it worth my while. However, with this partnership, Marriott Bonvoy has a big portfolio. There's lots of places that I do like staying that they offer. Of course, I like some Hilton places. You know, my trashy redneck butt has a soft spot for the Drury Inn because you get your 3 free cheap cocktails and some snacks at the end of the night. So I don't tend to exhibit a lot of brand loyalty. This makes me at least reconsider and look at those Marriott portfolio hotels first when I'm booking a non-Vegas trip. And if none of their hotels scratch my itch, I'll wind up booking whatever I want, but I'll at least give it a look.
So, that's the other part I wasn't thinking about. I was thinking about this from the Vegas and the MGM Rewards perspective, but my primary loyalty program has been Hilton for years because there's at least a Hampton Inn in every town I go to. But
Right.
Marriott's got pretty darn good coverage. You and I had a family event in Galveston about a month ago
Yeah.
where I stayed in a Marriott property, right? So I've got a Marriott account, and yeah, sure, this might cause me to stay in more Marriotts in non-Vegas locations. So I think this is an absolutely genius tie-up. Now, I guess what I would encourage our listeners to do is book through whatever site makes more sense for you. If you care specifically about the Vegas rewards, I would start my booking with the MGM reward site. And we had this conversation in the previous episode. I'm usually going to look for a way to buy my way into the luxury lounge. That's going to be easier to do on the MGM site, right? If you are Ryan, I would absolutely say book through the Marriott Bonvoy site. So figure out what makes more sense for you, but it's only a win, and you can match status. You can book either place. I think it's a great idea.
Yeah, I agree. Now,
Right.
that said, if you're not into MGM properties, then this may not be for you. A lot of people are loyal to Caesars. There's a lot of people
Sure.
that are hardcore staying downtown. So all of this only matters if you happen to like MGM properties. But as a self-avowed Vidara and New York junkie, yeah, cool.
Yeah. So speaking of liking MGM properties, John, you've got the credit card. Talk to me about
Yeah.
your thoughts on the new credit card.
So they're going to roll out with a new credit card. They haven't given any details yet. Let me tell you one thing I have noticed with the existing MGM credit card that's had me annoyed, and I've been on the verge of canceling my MGM card and finding another travel card. It used to be that you could accrue points, and again, in addition to your 25 points per dollar spent in an MGM property, you got another 3 points per dollar on your MGM card, and you could rack up status points quick, which is how I made gold that one year. But you also got back credits that could be applied for comps. Well, now those credits for the last year and a half have been applied to free play, which again, fine. I mean, if I roll into Vegas and I've got several $100s of free play on my credit card, and then I get another $200 worth of free play through the My Vegas apps, fine, I stay at an MGM property and I can get in. I think the most I've ever done is $600 of free gambling, which I turned into $500 of actual cash. That's not a bad payoff. But I've noticed the last few months, even my free play isn't increasing. So I feel like whatever benefit I was getting from the existing MGM card has been dwindling away. I suspect, I don't know because they haven't announced, I've got a feeling they're going to dump their current bank partner, which right now is a group called First Bank. That's who MGM's been doing this with for years. I wonder if they're about to change banking partners. Do you know, who does Marriott do their credit card through?
I know.
Do you happen to
I
know?
have a
I don't
Marriott
know.
Rewards credit card from American Express.
Okay. I'm wondering, well, no, they said this is going to be a MasterCard. I wonder if they're going to change banking relationships. I'm really curious what kind of deal this is, because that means that my current card that I have, they said it's still going to exist, but I am not getting much juice for my squeeze from the existing MGM credit card, other than if you have the credit card, First of all, you get Pearl with the card, but also at some, not all of the properties. If you look at the signs, and I had a lady yell at me and I pointed to her own sign, credit card holders got to jump in the platinum line. Not every MGM place will honor that, but some of them do. I'm not getting a lot of benefit from the current version of the card. I'm very curious to see if the new card is going to be worth it or if I'm going to dump out of that and go get a Chase Sapphire or some other kind of reward card. So I'm waiting to see how this goes down the road. If the new credit card lets you accrue rewards faster or build up tier points faster, a better credit card combined with a better rewards program, MGM's got a chance to make me more loyal, where the only time I don't stay with them is if I want to be downtown. I won't be dabbling with Caesars properties or anywhere else anymore if the new credit card is as enticing as this new rewards program. If it's like the card I presently have, I don't know how loyal I am.
I'm going to wait and see what the new credit card is like. But it is possible that what all this does, and I don't have the MGM credit card right now. I put all my spending on an American Airlines credit card because I like paying. But I own the Marriott card. And honestly, what all these changes may do is make me start using my Marriott card more. Because if I could use Marriott points to go to Vegas, yes, please. Right? Like that is a win every time, and it's not close.
Yeah, I agree. I think that's really interesting. And all of that is to say, listeners, if you've been dabbling in Vegas and you've gotten hooked and you're listening to, two fat old guys drink and talk Vegas, so you must be hooked if you're hearing this. If you're looking for ways to make Vegas a little bit more affordable, find a reward program that works for you. Like I said, we're not saying it's got to be MGM. There's other good reward partners out there. Jacob's Life in Vegas does videos about this routinely, how he plays different reward programs against each other. But if you're going to be serious about Vegas, you need to get hooked into some kind of point reward system. Might be your airline, might be your hotel brand, might be one of the Vegas resorts. But you want some way to get some of that money you're spending to travel to come back to you to finance future trips.
Absolutely. Well, John, what's going on in Vegas news?
So Scott of Idle Vegas, I think he's the first one to catch this, reported that Resorts World got fined over $10 million because they were letting illegal bookies roll into their place and gamble. And it's not like they just didn't notice. They were fully aware who these people were and were like, nope, you're welcome to game here, even though that's a pretty big violation of Nevada gaming law. And so they got slapped with a fine. Supposedly, on an unrelated note, they're about to lay off more staff. Bill, why is Resorts World bad at things?
I've wondered about that, and my hope for Resorts World, as places like the Fontainebleau open and there's more on the North Strip, maybe that helps, because I want to like Resorts World. I love the 8 Cigar Bar. I like Carver Steak. I like several of the places up there. But I don't know. It's like, so listeners, John knows this, and he's about to laugh at me, but the rest of y'all don't know this. I am a glutton for punishment. I coach other people's children playing baseball, playing Little League, or I think we call it Dixie League here in Alabama, whatever we call it. That's what I do for pain. I had one kid tonight who was trying super hard, and he fouled off the ball like 8 times in a row before he eventually struck out. Effectively, Resorts World is like this kid, right? Like, they keep trying. They come super close. There's a lot to encourage them for. They haven't hit the baseball yet, and it's super sad.
It's weird, and we've already established you're a Hilton fan. Hilton is kind of good at running travel destinations.
That's
and while
the thing
they're not
they've
the
done.
first, you don't think of them as the gambling people. They have a partner to run the gambling end of things. But it's not like this is their first hotel with a casino attached. You would think, I could understand Oyo breaking a casino. They're doing it. I would think Hilton could figure this out.
You would think that, and yet they can't. But I guess my real question, John, is are we stopping by simply lifting one story from Scott at Vital Vegas?
Well, of course not. This entire podcast is nothing but things we stole from Scott. He also says that on the heels of killing their bellhop service, because of course you want to pay for all the concierge and bellhops you can get when you're staying at Excalibur. Excalibur
They
has
have a
closed.
bellhop?
They are closing the spa, Bill, and this raises the question: who is paying to let strangers touch them inside the dirty castle? You're our resident spa expert. Bill, are you heartbroken that you can't visit the spa at Excalibur anymore?
I feel dirty knowing they had one. By the way, listeners, I just got back from a trip to the Beau Rivage in Biloxi. That video will be coming out over the next week or so. There was an incident in their spa, which in my whatever. You'll hear my first true YouTube rant, but I assume there's going to be some deep cleaning involved at the space, which used to be the Excalibur Spa.
I wonder what they do with that space. I don't know. I wasn't aware Excalibur
for a
had
while.
one. Yeah.
Yeah. I didn't know they had one, and you know how I will usually look for one on purpose, but yeah, no thanks, dude. I'm out.
To be fair, we haven't stayed there. I've been trying to con you into staying there. They have a 2-bedroom suite, and I want to see what the ghetto version of the deluxe suite is like. But having walked through Excalibur many times, and I'm not throwing shade. If one of our half dozen listeners is an Excalibur fan, I love you. No shade. I would stay there. But when I think about luxury spa, I don't think about Excalibur. When I think about the clientele who gravitate towards luxury spas, I don't think about the people I typically see walking around Excalibur. I'm sort of amazed they're just now closing this thing.
Yeah, no, that really does shock me. And that makes me think about the next story on our list, the Plaza, which has never had a spa because, to their credit, the Plaza knows what they are. Now, to be clear, listeners, I enjoy a trip to the spa. I enjoy a nice hotel that has one. But if that don't half-ass anything, whole-ass, or half-ass two things, whole-ass one thing. And the Plaza knows what they're good at, and they do that. And the Plaza has announced that this summer they're going to bring back Friday night fireworks, which I think is going to be an outstanding thing to go see in downtown Vegas. I think will absolutely draw people to that end of the Fremont Street experience. And as a side note to that, the Plaza is now a partner to My Vegas Games, which is mostly in the MGM Rewards ecosystem. Now, to be clear, the Plaza is not an MGM Rewards partner, but they are a My Vegas Games partner. If you watched the YouTube videos we put out about our trip to the Plaza a couple of months ago, the trip was good, not great. But you know what? Some fireworks might actually draw me back there. Is that a thing you would make any point of seeing in Vegas, John?
Yeah, I mean, I'm rarely in town, like baller on a budget. I tend to travel on weekdays because it's cheaper. So I rarely get to be in Vegas on a weekend because I'm saving a few bucks. But you know how much I love the Plaza. I love downtown. And fireworks downtown on a Friday night. If there's any way I can, I will get there for this. I think, Jonathan Jossel, who's the CEO over there, they run their own podcast on the corner of Main Street. You should at least listen to the episodes where former Mayor Oscar Goodman is on there because Mayor Oscar is hilarious. Although you'll get offended if you're a sensitive-minded soul, but he's worth it.
Yeah, no.
Yeah,
that podcast is amazing, and I love listening to his honor.
But anyway, Jonathan Jossel says that this was a big draw for them and that the neighboring properties, and there's been bad blood, like the Plaza is not a part of the Fremont Street Experience Consortium, right? So there's been some of the other downtown folks have had a rough relationship with the Plaza over the years, but he says that even some of the other operators were very complimentary and thankful because they notice an uptick in foot traffic down to the neighborhood for fireworks, and that leads to people buying beverages and food and gambling and spending money, and that's good for everybody. So I think this is great, and if I can get there sometime this summer, I absolutely would go just for this.
Cool. Well, before the show, we were talking about another place you wanted to go, which is the restaurant Carmela's down at Planet Hollywood. What can you tell us about Carmela's?
So I've got a sweet spot for just the name Carmela's because there was a Carmela's Italian food in my hometown many, many, many years ago.
You and I both went
And
on dates there. Now, to be clear, not with each other, but
not
yes,
with
you and
each
I
other.
both went on dates to Carmela's.
Carmela and Pops ran the place, and they were this older Italian couple. And I was not very good at dating. I was very awkward. But I went in there just one day to check it out because I was thinking about taking a date there. And Pops was like, "So you're going to bring a date?" And I was like, "Yes, sir." He goes, "Don't worry. We're going to act like you're a regular to big time spender. You bring that girl in here." And he did. Like they went out of their way. They brought food we didn't even order. Just they made me look like a king. Don't worry, I ruined that relationship on my own eventually, but they got my foot in the door. So I'm eternally grateful for Carmela and Pops. So I like the name, but this is a joint by Tao Group, so there's like a nightclub vibe to it. It's inside Planet Hollywood. There's a view of the fountains from it. They've got, apparently, according to Al Mancini over at Neon News, Neon Feast, and pretty much every outlet for Vegas food news in Vegas. Al Mancini put up pictures of his meal there. It looked good. He complimented the decor, the food, the music. It's kind of a throwback 70s vibe. And in the menu bill for things that are show centric, they also have quite the whiskey list. And I wanted to give us both a chance to kind of peruse this and see what you thought about this whiskey list. Because
So
there's some good things and some oddities here.
I think I lost the whiskey list when I was pulling up our stuff earlier. Hold on, let me go into the run sheet. I got it. My bad. In my defense, John, and I don't know if you knew this, I'm not always good at things.
Yeah, especially, when we're a beverage deep into the podcast.
Well, yeah.
Yeah.
We were talking like about 8 things simultaneously. So menu, Carmela, I got it. No. Oh, I accidentally looked at the vegetarian menu. I feel dirty now. That's not what I wanted.
Yeah, somebody's got to eat it.
So I noticed when I first go to the drinks on their menu, they are $22, and that is one of the things that I hate about Vegas is how expensive cocktails have become.
Yeah.
I realize I mentioned it earlier, and we've had a whole podcast episode on it, but I'm increasingly becoming a fan of Biloxi because I can afford to do stuff there. But I'm looking at this. Yeah, stuff is overpriced. Like a glass of Tanqueray 10 is $22.99. That's not a $23 drink, and it's certainly not the same price as Patron Reposada. Now,
So when you get down to the whiskey, there's some oddities here, Bill.
there are. So they've got Buffalo Trace. $20 is a little high, but I can see it. Right, like fine.
Right.
Oddly, the Knob Creek is the same price, and Knob Creek is normally more expensive.
But Canadian Club is the same price.
An Old Forester is $28.99. I pay less than $28.99 for like a liter of Old Forester. So yeah, it's like they've got some stuff. Ooh, they got Redbreast 21-year-old now. I don't know that I'd pay $161 for it, but I would sure love to have that. I've had their 15. I've got a bottle of their 12 in my closet right now, and that may be what I have post-production. So no, they've got some amazing whiskeys, but yeah, this price structure on this menu is weird, man. Like I don't get any of it. What is relatively more and less expensive, and it's got to come down to what did they get a deal cut on?
It's got to be. I mean, they've got Booker's for $23 a pour. So you can have Canadian Club for $20. So you can have rot gut, bottom shelf, watered down Canadian crap. Sorry, Canada. I love your syrup, but your bacon and your whiskey stink. I'm sorry. Or for $3 more, you can get Booker's. And for $2 more than that, you can get Baker's. The pricing structure here makes no sense. There are some high-end spirits that really you might as well buy because you're not paying that much more than some of the bottom shelf stuff. So it's all over the place. That said, I think I want to check this place out.
I am willing to check it out.
And maybe going on the Labor Day list.
Yeah, it's fine. So one other place worth checking out, Eater Vegas just covered a new place in the Arts District. What can you tell us about Bar Boheme?
So let me set the article first. So Eater Vegas has the best dishes Eater Vegas ate this month, which, by the way, Eater Vegas for a while was just sort of going through the motions. They lost their head writer, and the post quality was pretty awful. They've got a new writer, Jana Carroll, I think. And so she's putting up some good content. They've got a few different things, but they've got these mussels au safran at Bar Boheme. Now, Bar Boheme is the bar that's already open attached to what's going to be the French restaurant run by James Tree, who also runs a kitchen, which we have been raving about in every episode since we got back in January. And I got to say, I saw some great dishes in this article, but those mussels and that location, Bill, we got to get back to the Arts District, my friend. We got more eating and drinking to do.
All right. Although next time I go to the Arts District, I'm inclined to pay for the Uber or the cab. Yeah. Like that walk
I
wasn't
like the walk.
terrible from downtown. Okay, if it's from the Strip, I'm gonna Uber. Even from downtown, I'm kind of lazy, and there's some sketch neighborhoods. I don't particularly want to walk through those places.
I think it depends on the weather, to be honest with you. Well, from the Strip, I agree, because I don't want to walk around the Strat. I'm not trying to get shanked.
Yeah.
From Fremont to Esther's was fine. And frankly, I need the walk before I eat the meal I'm going to eat. Like, walking in Vegas is the only reason I don't drop dead of the beatus every time I get into town, right?
Yeah.
So there's that. But I will say that there's some other places in the Arts District I want to check out. But yeah, I got to say this has my attention. This is looking good to me. Oh, last one, Bill, and it's not on the run sheet, but you and I talked about this. Listeners, we do not get political. This is not a politics podcast. If you want politics, there's a lot of them. So Bill and I are going to refrain from political commentary here. The Boring Company, which is owned by an individual who people tend to get passionate and worked up about one way or the other. Don't at me. This is news. If you love Elon, if you hate Elon, that's not what we're talking about here. But the Boring Company has opened up a few more stops, now connecting basically Fontainebleau, Resorts World, the Sahara. Bill, does having another way to get around make a North Strip trip a little more doable, given the distance between properties on that end of the Strip, and given, again, that sketchy neighborhood factor?
So yes, but yes, it does if it works, but my experience with the monorail never became what I wanted it to be. So I'm really deeply curious about whether the loop becomes what it's pretending to be. If it is, then cool. And if it's not, then, whatever. So it is an intriguing option. I want to see it work or not before I get too excited about it either way.
I will say, in her latest video, Norma Yelly, and I know you hate watching a Norma video.
Terrible.
Yeah, just terrible. Who wants to watch that? Anyway, in the latest Norma video, which I'm sure you've seen in slow motion 3 times by now, she does talk about and go down to the station for that particular section of the loop. She has featured it on some other videos. I think some of the other vloggers have. I'm curious. I would like to see the loop connect South Strip. If they ever connect to the airport, I think they got a real winner. Because any way to get out of that airport and to your destination cheaply and quickly, without having to ride a bus, I would be for. All right, Bill, anything else to add for the order of the good or the good of the order?
For the good of the order, I'm going to leave in a minute because I need another cocktail because my Negroni is out. So we should probably wrap things up here.
Well, before you can go get that other drink, why don't you go ahead and tell the listeners where else they could find more Dine Drink Vegas and Dine Drink travel content?
So you can find me on essentially every social media platform: Blue Sky, X, Instagram, Facebook, and I'm sure there's some others, at Dine Drink Travel. You can find us on YouTube at Dine Drink Travel if you're looking for things about airport trips and occasionally cruises and executive lounges, and Dine Drink Vegas if you want Vegas content and a few videos coming out about Biloxi. You can also find us on the web at dinedrinktravel.com, and heck, we're even starting a Substack called Dine Drink Travel. Find us, folks. We'd be thrilled to talk to you.
And you can always find me at Dine Drink John. We're so glad you took the time to listen to us. If you have a friend that loves Las Vegas or an enemy that hates hearing middle-aged men talk for 45 minutes, please share this podcast with them. We'll be back in a few weeks with some fresh news and a brand new story about Vegas. And until then, thanks for listening and happy travels.